Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys having the time to allow me to come here and introduce myself. I'm Mark Krueger. I'm your current Assistant District Attorney with the Carson City District Attorney's Office. I've been here a little over a year and a half now. Before that, I was always a Carson City resident. I did actually commute out to Lyon County, and I was the Assistant District Attorney out there. I have a few little things that I want to take a moment to say, and that is I really appreciate you guys accommodating the district attorneys going first. I'm in the middle of a murder trial, so it's been a little bit of an exhausting week, and if I misspeak a little bit tonight, please forgive me. That's the reason for it. I really think that as far as my candidacy, I want you guys to know that I'm very loyal to the office. I took an oath to this office, and I love this job. It is something that I have endeavored to become better and better at it. In the words of Plato, quoting Socrates, every day I grow older, always learning. And that's how I've always approached this job. And I take my oath to the office very seriously. And I want you guys to know that I look to save taxpayers' money. I look to make it a modern prosecutor's office. And that's what I would do as the district attorney. I'm also very experienced. I have had over 35 criminal jury trials. I've had civil jury trials. I've had hundreds of domestic battery, DUI trials, those types of things. So I have a lot of experience that I bring to the table. And I want you to know that I'm aware. I'm aware of what's going on in the community. I've seen the types of crimes that we're seeing. I see an increase in the severity of the crimes, especially among our juveniles. And it's important that we address those and keep on those types of crimes to see if we can get people off of the criminal track and back into society as working members. And the economy has not helped. I'm also dedicated. And I want you to know that I'm very dedicated and passionate about victims' rights. I would like very much to promote victims' rights and continue some of the work that the district attorney started, like the SAVE program, to stop abuse against the elderly and the vulnerable. I also, when I came into the district attorney's office, noted that there was a lot of an increase in embezzlement type crimes, where small businesses have taken a hit by employees. We see that in a lot of types of crimes, from anywhere $10,000 up to upwards of $200,000, some of these corporations here who are already struggling, and it means a loss of jobs because of that. So what we've done is I looked to developing a business protection program, and really what this is, the design behind this, is to help these businesses educate themselves, educate their staff, and really come to put into place things that will prevent that type of opportunities to embezzle from their corporations, their businesses, from taking place in the first place, thereby eliminating the crime up front. So we don't have to try to recover, because it's very, very difficult to get any kind of restitution in an embezzlement type case. Usually the embezzler has long spent the money by the time they're caught. I'm enthusiastic, and I'm extremely enthusiastic about what the district attorney's office can be and how it can evolve into that modern prosecutor's office. I'm enthusiastic about bringing new programs to the district attorney's office, especially in areas of sex crimes. Sex crimes are so sensitive, and little kids that have been a victim to a sex crime suffer, and they have to come and relive their suffering by facing their accuser back in trial again. Darn near half of the criminal jury trials that I have done have been successful prosecutions of sex offenders. And what I see that victims really need is some sort of help in that courtroom to give them strength to go in there and testify. And what I would bring to the table is promoting the use of one of these dogs that are trained to help kids. And not just kids, but any victim of a crime who needs that help, to give them the comfort and the solace to be able to testify, and the strength and the courage. And that will successfully help us get prosecutions and convictions and put these people who would prey upon our children and our vulnerable and our people in the citizens of the community. I'm almost finished. I'm resolved. I'm resolved to make it a team atmosphere, a team approach, and educate the deputy DAs. Give them a career path. And I've restructured the district attorney's office as it stands now so that our deputies have a career path and we can keep people here so that we don't have them leaving and the attrition stops. And if you think about it, loyal, experienced, aware, dedicated, enthusiastic, and resolved. And that spells leader. And I would like to lead your district attorney's office into the future. And I would enjoy any questions you guys have at this moment because I'm getting the cutoff right now. So,
Do you have any questions?
Real quickly, I'll speak very fast. I'm an attorney, I can do that.
I was just wondering, do we have a problem with human trafficking in our area?
Well, you know, that was a big legislative bill this last session, and the human trafficking bill, to prevent human trafficking was passed. There isn't, well, there's different statistics. In Carson City, there's not a big problem with it. However, in the Northern Nevada area, there has been instances, as I understand it from the Attorney General's office, of human trafficking. Most of it is in Las Vegas area. Okay? Yes?
I got to read the question. Let's see. I've heard our DA's office is a training ground for Reno's office. What would you do to stop that trend?
Well, and I think I kind of addressed that a little bit, and that's already in the process where I've restructured the office so that we can try to make a career path for prosecutors. By restructuring, we will be able to hopefully stop the attrition. The bottom line is, and this is the Pontifax study that just came out and was before the Board of Supervisors, we're 18% underpaid in our prosecutors for Carson City. 18%. The Pontifax expert said 10% is where you can top out at. But once you go over 10% as the maximum amount of the disparity between the different locations, it's going to be difficult. But all we can do is try, because we can't get more money right now, guys. Everyone knows that. There isn't any more money. We need to keep the parks open. We need to do all the other things that has to happen. So instead, I try to make it a team atmosphere, try to make it a place where people want to stay, where they're like, hey, this is where I want to prosecute. And we do offer stuff that Reno and Las Vegas and some of these other jurisdictions don't. And that is, we offer an opportunity to be able to prosecute any type of crime. And that's big because you're not just slotted into doing just misdemeanors all the time. What these prosecutors want is they want to get into court. They love it. I know this. I love it. I'm in trial right now. Okay? I am getting the total cutoff here, so I may not be able to take any more questions.
One more, if there's one more question.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
So if I can interrupt the proceedings with once again making an apology. On my list, and I overlooked in the back, Jim Bathgate, the candidate for school trustee. He's with us tonight. And our next candidate to come up here and tell you what he's all about is Jasson Woodbury.
Thank you, Morris. And I guess I'd first say I'm glad there's no candidates for fire marshal here tonight. My name is Jasson Woodbury. I'm running for Carson City District Attorney. And I'll wish Mark good luck in his trial, resuming tomorrow. And I thank the Republican Central Committee for having us here tonight and Silver State Charter School for hosting us here. This is my first political campaign. And as I was talking to my wife about tonight and about how I was, I'll admit it, kind of nervous.
You've got to speak up, Jasson.
She told me, well, why don't you just treat it like you're at home talking to me and the kids? And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I think these people will actually pay attention to what I'm saying. But as I was thinking about what I might say here tonight, I think I fell into a trap that probably a lot of candidates fall into. And I thought what I was going to say was stand up here and talk about myself. But I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's what tonight is about. A political campaign, running for office, holding office, is not about any candidate. It's about you. That's why the first words in the United States Constitution are, "We the people." That's why in the Declaration of Independence, the word "we" and "our" occur 37 times, and the word "I" or "my" doesn't occur at all. That's why the father of the Republican Party talked about an American system that was a government of, by, and for the people. Public office is not about an office. It's about the public. And none of us candidates in here, or those who aren't in here, should ever forget that. So being a candidate for district attorney, let me explain what I think the three primary duties of the district attorney's office are. First, most visibly, it's the DA's office prosecutes criminals. Second, less visibly but very important, the district attorney is the legal representative and provides legal advice to the elected officials and departments of Carson City. And third, the district attorney is the administrative head of the district attorney's office. Now, I think that the district attorney's office can be improved in all three of these areas. And I've outlined on my website, jassonwoodbury.com, some proposals that I have for improving, for what I think would improve the district attorney's office. Let me talk about a couple here tonight. First, with respect to criminal prosecutions, there are two elements to a successful criminal prosecution. First, we need to get to the right result. We need to make sure that justice is served. But there's a second component. We need to get to that just result in an expeditious way. We've all heard the phrase that justice delayed is justice denied. And that phrase has been around for hundreds of years, and it's as true today as it was hundreds of years ago when it was first uttered. Justice delayed is justice denied. If we've got a victim that has been put through the ringer in the process so badly that she no longer cares about the result, she just wants it to be over, we have denied that victim justice. We can do better. We can do better. There's another part of this too. Delays and inefficiencies in the system are costly. We can do better. If I am elected district attorney, I will personally take responsibility for knowing every case in the office, every felony, every gross misdemeanor in the office that has been in the system for more than 4 months and has not gone to a preliminary hearing. I will personally review the circumstances in that case and determine whether the extraordinary delay is justified by extraordinary circumstances. And if it's not, you can bet your bottom dollar that that case will be processed immediately. Now, there's another important function of the district attorney's office. I think that the DA's office can strengthen the link between local government and the citizens that local government serves. We need to make sure that meetings are open and transparent. We need to make sure that our elected officials, our appointed officials, our employees understand their ethical obligations and are knowledgeable about them. And we need to make sure that our citizens have a voice, that when they are concerned about something that their local government is doing, that they have a place to go to find the information they need to seek redress for that. I thank you all for coming tonight. I'm very encouraged by this, that you're coming out to cast an informed vote in June and November. I thank you very much for your attention. Yes, sir.
I have a question. And justice for all. There's a term which is pretty much practiced here in this country, but how about bribery, corruption, and other terms?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the...
Bribery, corruption, and other crimes. How do you address those?
Those are all crimes. I mean, they...
Yeah. How do you address that? Do you do something about that?
Certainly. I mean, and I would do that, and I'm sure I'm speaking for Mark as well. If there is evidence, I mean, people need to have faith that their government is acting on their behalf, and any evidence, any credible evidence that a public official is taking bribes, that somebody's giving bribes, that would be looked at as a very, very serious matter. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, Gary Schmidt, happen to be a candidate for state senate and have attended local meetings in this greater area, government meetings for 4 decades. And we have a pretty good open meeting law, and I'm glad that we have an attorney general candidate here later to address the enforcement of it. But one of the things that happens at the district attorney's office is you sit and advise public bodies in regards to the open meeting law. But you're employed and paid by the citizens. And too often I've seen the representatives, it won't generally isn't the district attorney, but sometimes, sit there and sort of act as the elected official's private counsel and not a representative of the people. It's really a bad system because you have to wear 2 hats, and that's not allowed normally for an attorney to represent the plaintiff and the defense. But can you address that and what you can assure people that you will see that the people, the citizens, are also represented in regards to violations of the open meeting law and ethics complaints?
Certainly, and it's a great question because it is a tricky issue, a confusing issue, because statutorily the district attorney does represent those elected officials and is supposed to be looking out for their interests. But let me just tell you what I would do if a citizen came to me with a concern, ethical, open meeting law, whatever it happened to be. I would, first of all, be honest with that citizen and tell that citizen, look, here's my situation. I represent the elected official. I want you to understand that, okay? And anything you and I talk about is not confidential. I can't act as your attorney, but I want to help. I want to figure this out. Now, you have other options. You can go to the Attorney General's office with an open meeting law complaint. You can go to the Ethics Commission, and here's the number, and by the way, here's who you talk to do all that. But I want to help, and let me hear the problem. Let me listen to this and see if there's something we can fix. Because that's what the citizen is trying to get to. The citizen isn't making a complaint. The citizen wants to fix the problem. So let's see if we can do that. Let's listen to that. Let's not argue with the citizen, you're wrong about this or that. Let's evaluate legal research, factual research into what the citizen is saying and what is accurate and what may be misunderstood. Let's get back to the citizen. Respond to them. Call them, email them, write them, whatever it takes. But let them know that you are looking at it and explain your position. And look, maybe you think the citizen is wrong. Maybe you just explain that, look, I have a different interpretation, and you explain that to the citizen, but you make sure that that person has a place to go if they don't like what you said, that they can go to that the Attorney General or the Ethics Commission. I'm getting away. I got to go. Thank you very much.
Corner. Okay, no apologies this time. Next on our agenda is the State Attorney General, straight from beautiful Marlette Lake, Adam Laxalt.
Well, doing this in this hot of a room, trying to either put me to sleep or the entire room to sleep. So hopefully that doesn't happen in the next hour or so. So,
please speak down.
Can everyone hear me all right?
No, these guys back here in this little corner.
Okay. So I think I should start out with what the job of the Attorney General is. The couple primary jobs for the Attorney General, which dovetails to tonight, is the top prosecutor, the chief law enforcement officer. So I'm coming out of the Navy and also served in Iraq, where most of my military career was working with law enforcement. this is the experience I have, and to make sure that I'm able to work with our sheriffs, our district attorneys here in Carson City and around the state. This is a primary job to make sure that if there are any conflicts, the Attorney General can solve those. And also, each community has their problems right now, and the Attorney General can be additional support to make sure I'm there and my office is there to help with all the needs the local community has. So most people know that that is one of the primary jobs, to be the top prosecutor of the state. The job that most people don't know that is important for the Attorney General is to defend the state from the federal government. Whoa. So, you know, these days we wake up nearly every day and there's an executive order, or the president boldly says, if I can't get legislative action and I can't work with the parties, I'll use my pen and I'll use my phone. Well, I think anyone in this room, any person of any party, understands that that is not our country. We do not have a king. We do not have a monarchy. We are a system that has checks and balances, and everyone must work within that framework. So as Attorney General, a lot of people may not know, but what's happening around the country is, and they happen to be mostly Republican Attorney Generals right now, since there's a Democrat president. Attorney Generals are using this office to forcefully protect our states, to look for every area where the federal government is reaching into our state and is not giving us our ability to control our own affairs. And what I find everywhere I've traveled in this state, every single county, is all we want is more ability to make these decisions for ourselves. We have a lot of good people in this state, we have a lot of smart people in this state, and we know how to solve our problems. And this is all we want. Unfortunately, we have a federal government that is just entirely tone deaf to that. And they just don't understand local problems. Washington is 3,000 miles away. And the people that are involved in these decisions mostly have no idea how to make Nevada a better place. So this is what I bring that's an addition to the Nevada's Attorney General's office. This is something I'm passionate about. I believe very strongly in the rule of law, and that we have a constitutional system that means something. There are rules to follow, and if you want to change those rules, there is a way to do that. This is what made our country great. This is what we need to get back to, which means judges can't decide the rules for us. It means politicians, if it's a president alone, can't decide the rules for us. They must work with the legislature. They must work with our elected representatives. So this is what I bring to the office. As I said, I come from a Navy background, and I do believe I bring leadership to this office. And I think one of the other strong suits I have is never having run for office before. No offense to the elected officials. But you know, I think people are just tired of the status quo, and they want people that are coming from outside the system that can bring new ideas and new energy and new strength to these offices. So I have a 1-year-old at home, and you all can pray for me to have the extra strength without sleeping through the night to be able to push this year, but I'm highly motivated. The stakes are far too high for our state and our nation for me to not get in this fight, and I'm taking on a very strong Democrat who has a year advantage in fundraising and support, but I have incredible enthusiasm around the state, and we're fighting hard every day, and we'll succeed in November. So thank you very much.
Well, actually, it's up to Adam.
Just talk.
Is the microphone?
Thank you, Jay.
Go ahead.
I testified last Friday for a committee on Yucca Mountain, and one of the things that came out was a consistent set of lies put forth partially by the Attorney General's office. And I don't care what side anybody's on, but you can't misrepresent the truth. And what I'm hearing from you is that you're more inclined toward the truth, but you haven't said a word about our current Attorney General. And, okay?
Is that a question?
Okay. So I want to know. I know you're going to do the right thing, but you know, you haven't said a word.
For those that don't know, the current Attorney General is termed out. So I'm not running against Attorney General. She's done plenty of things that people like, and some things that have been. I don't know if I like this microphone. Can everybody hear me? I think that I will have some of similar priorities, like certainly what she's done in the past year to try to help with human trafficking is an important issue, and that is a great role of the Attorney General. But as far as it comes to fighting the federal government, this is not something that's been a focus in the Attorney General's office, and it's certainly something that, breaking the microphone, it's certainly something that I will focus on.
You're out of time.
One more. Go ahead.
Yeah, could you comment, please, about recent comments by our Attorney General of the United States, his suggestion to state AGs that they can pick and choose which laws to ignore or enforce?
Well, you're almost a plant for me. It gives me a good opportunity to say, if you go on Facebook and Twitter, Adam Laxalt, 4AG, I just commented on that this week. The Attorney General for the United States in the past few years has many times set this tone that it is not the Attorney General's job to enforce the law. The Attorney General should pick and choose which laws he likes and which laws he doesn't. This is not the type of America that we can live under. We need a consistent rule of law. If you want to change the rules, you change them. You don't decide not to support them. So I think that the U.S. Attorney General telling state attorney generals that encouraging them to not follow the law it's an abomination. I mean, it is absolutely unprecedented in the history of our country. I totally disagree with it. I think that is the job of an attorney general, is to support and defend the Constitution. So, thank you.
Well, okay, now we have somebody says they will enforce the laws as they're supposed to be enforced. So let's now hear from somebody that will count our money the way it should be counted. Oh, we have a question in the back? Yes, sir.
Yeah, can we get that mic turned off? It's have some kind of feedback. Yeah.
Or it needs to be turned down so that we can
It's fine. It's fine. You just turn it down a little bit.
You can hold it behind you and hear it.
Testing, testing. Testing.
Better?
Yeah. Keep making this tapping sound. It should be better if it's
Okay.
Testing. How's that?
No, they can't hear it back. It's all
Hold it down.
jumbling up.
Right.
You can hold it way down. Yeah, hold it away. Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead with Mr. Dan Schwartz. Where is Mr. Dan?
Thank you. I'll speak loud. Can you all hear me? Good. First of all I can say is wow. This is a fabulous turnout tonight, and I think Abraham Lincoln mentioned that to us earlier. This is what democracy is about. So I'm running for state treasurer. Most of you don't even know that we have a state treasurer. I'm being a little facetious. And if you do, you don't know what he does. The state treasurer has 3 or 4 responsibilities. The first one is issuing debt for the state, okay? 2 is unclaimed property. If you've lost something, the state treasurer is responsible for that. 3, the state treasurer is responsible for our several college, education, and prepaid tuition programs. But most importantly, the state treasurer is responsible for investing your money. We have in this state what's known as a general fund, which is about $2 billion. It's a lot of money. What we do with that money is important to us. Why? Because if we can generate funds at the state level, we can lower our taxes. We can spend more money on education. We can spend more money on vital services. Well, that's been pretty tough over the last 3 or 4 years, actually 8 years under the current treasurer. We are earning less than 0.5%. And you say, well, how much is, I don't know what 0.5% is. The stock markets, the equity markets, last year earned 29%. Government bonds earned something around 3%. So we're not doing too well. But what's even worse is that after you factor in inflation and fees, we're losing money. So on our $2 billion that we have sitting right here, we are losing money. That's sad. 2, the current state treasurer put together a fund of about $50 million. I don't know, $50 million is a lot of money to me. To some people it may not be, but it's a lot of money. What we have done with this $50 million is, first of all, pay out fees of about $6 million. So before any money is earned, we are paying some bankers from the East Coast $6 million to watch over this money. Okay, I don't like that, but what am I getting for that? Well, what we've gotten for that is $2 million investment in a very risky company. And what we've also gotten is, in fact, no returns. So for this $50 million that was taken from the Permanent Education Fund, we have gotten nothing, zippo. I think that gives you a sense of what the problem is. I also, as State Treasurer, want to look at some of the parameters of the office. There are a lot of things. As I said, I'm a conservative, and what is a conservative? To me, a conservative has 4 indices. 1 is limited government, 2 is local government, 3 is free enterprise and private markets. I'm a great believer in that. And 4 is minimal taxes. But I still believe that the state treasurer has a responsibility to the taxpayers of this state to look after the finances of the state, and that's what I would like to do. I have 35 years of experience in finance. I've worked at banks, I've worked at securities companies, but most importantly, I've done what many of you have done, which is started businesses. And I've started about 2 in particular. 1 has done well, 1 has done very well, 1 is still in solution, as we call it. But what it has done is it has put me in your shoes to understand what it takes to get up in the morning, to open up a shop, run a business, and to run it profitably. So, thank you. Keep me in mind on Election Day, and I appreciate your time. Yeah. Oh, okay, one question. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Considering that the public employees retirement system has earned somewhere in the neighborhood of 12% over the last year, can you get this state money into that pool?
That's an excellent question. I didn't realize this.
Some other government entities do pool their money with PERS.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, this to me is what's just is really pathetic about this situation. Is why do we, as Nevada taxpayers, have to put up with returns that are almost non-existent? And whether PERS making 12% or 8%, why do we, the taxpayers and citizens of this state, have to put up with a standard that is, well, it's all but zero? So. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you running against the current treasurer, or?
I'm not. One of the questions, the current treasurer is a lady by the name of Kate Marshall. And I'll just say very briefly, Kate is a very good attorney. She knows very little about investment, which is the job of the state treasurer. The lady, excuse me, the lady who wants to replace Kate is an accountant, and she's a great accountant. But again, she knows little or nothing about investment. And that's what the job's about. It's like saying, you know, we're both running on the track team. Sorry. We're both running on the track team. I'm a pole vaulter and I want to be a sprinter. That's fine, but that's not the job. And that's not what you want me to be, and that's not what I should be. So,
One more group of candidates for the night, and first up will be the incumbent, Sheriff Kenny Furlong.
Now, guard talking.
That's the way you get me when you light my mirror up, buddy.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is a great opportunity tonight for a lot of reasons. The crowd is the biggest I've seen. This kind of reminds me of years gone past. Folks are getting back engaged. My name is Kenny Furlong. I am the sheriff of Carson City. And I think tonight, I believe I'm the only incumbent up here talking. So,
I believe.
Yeah. So here's some little feedbacks for you. Under Sheriff Albertson sitting right here in front of me. In 2003, I was elected to become your sheriff. And I promised I would do certain things. One of those promises was to engage our sheriff's department back into this community. Get it engaged in our schools. Get it engaged in our kids. Get it engaged in our businesses. Create a teamship. And to relentlessly pursue that path. It's been a wonderful ride, folks. And I want to thank you for your support. I want to thank each and every one of you that has called in and said, I have an issue, can you help us? The Sheriff's Department has not said no for the last 11 years. Every single time we want to come out. We want to assist you. I spent my entire career in a law enforcement type background, whether it be in my 20 years in the military or right here in Carson City. I grew up here in this town. I'm invested in this community. I'm proud of this town. And I'm proud of you. Because of you, in 2012, I thought we hit one of the best, or 2011, I thought we hit one of the best years measurable. Our crime index dropped so low, I couldn't believe it. We were solving crimes like crazy in this town because people were calling in and saying, I have this information, I want you to have it. 2012 came along and it slid up a little bit. Maybe a victim of the economy, maybe. But folks, I'm here to tell you, if you have not checked my website or if you have not heard me say this before, hear me right now. Since 1997, the professionalism, the experience, the drive of every single officer in the Sheriff's Department, including my opponents, has been so high that we dropped to the lowest level since we began counting in 1997. That's phenomenal, and that's because of you. That's because of your willingness to participate. That's because of a DA's office that's willing to prosecute. That's because the officer is willing to go those extra steps and create results. The emphasis is to create results. That's what we have driven for. And this is the best town to do it in. We can do things here in Carson City that nobody else can do. I've sat around with the state and spoken to them. Yes, we have a type of government and the type of geographics and the type of character in our community that we are all driven in the exact same direction. We want our children safe. We want our businesses safe. We want our homes safe. And we want to feel safe, don't we? And that's why you so often see me standing out in front of you, engaging with every event in this community and telling you how you can better protect yourself and how you can get information to us when we need that valuable information. Just as a mere example, just as a slight example, several bank robberies this year, wasn't there? Every single one of them resolved the same day. Wow, this town! Picking up that phone and saying he went that way. And an officer not walking, but engaging because he believes in you. And he believes in you. And he wants to see you safe. You have a fine sheriff's department, folks. You have an excellent sheriff's department. We are on the right path. And we are engaged with every one of you, not a single one of you. Thank you. questions at all? Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Well, yes, ma'am.
Once again, I got handed the paper to read the
Nobody
questions.
asks a question. You will read this question.
What have you done to lessen the gap between the firefighter and the sheriff's officers' pay inequalities?
You are asking, how can I, as the sheriff, lessen the gap between the two?
What have you done to lessen the gap between the firefighter and the sheriff's officers' pay inequality?
The
I'm
sheriff-
just reading the question.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. And it really is a valid question because we have 5 different bargaining units in the sheriff's department. So on a daily basis, it's a challenge. There's 5. The sheriff does not negotiate. Each of those bargaining units negotiates directly with the city. Each of those bargaining agreements is an agreement between that bargaining unit separate from other entities. In other words, a deputies association, a sergeants association, supervisory association. Each of those units, each of those associations bargains directly with the city. The sheriff does not have a vote in that. Ultimately, once those negotiations are concluded, all of those practices go before the Board of Supervisors, who has the ultimate authority. Anything else? Yes, sir.
How come there's not full-time officers in the public schools?
Excuse me?
How come there's no full-time officers in public schools?
In public schools?
Yeah.
We have several. Deputy Jessica Rivera is assigned to the Carson High School and Pioneer High full-time. Right now, we are not funded for school resource officers. The beauty of your question is in this current, and I'm not putting pressure on you. In my current budget proposal are 2 positions, one for Carson Middle School, one for Eagle Valley Middle School. Ladies and gentlemen, the gap that is missing in our community, in our society, is we need to pay more attention to that middle school age development. Carry those good habits that they have. I go to every single graduation at the elementary school, and I see the wonderful kids, the smiles on their faces, and how they sit up straight. And when those kids sit up straight, I see the parents in the audience do that same very thing. And then they go to middle school, and there is no active engagement right now today. And we expect that their lives have changed. Now you're going to go to school and you're going to go to your different classes on your own, and you're going to have several teachers rather than one, and the real challenges are heavy. And then they go into high school where we have officers assigned. So as of this semester, beginning this past January, I have doubled the workload on 2 of the officers by virtue of their volunteerism. And they are now engaged at Carson Middle School and Eagle Valley Middle School. And the feedback has been phenomenal. Engaging with the kids, mentorship, being an asset and a resource to the administrators. The feedback has been phenomenal. Carson City, it's past time. We must have a school resource program. Thank you.
Mr. Don Gibson.
Man, I feel tall up here while you guys are sitting down over there. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Don Gibson. I'm running for sheriff. I'm coming to the office of sheriff with over 16 years of law enforcement experience. Within those 16 years, I must speak up. Within those 16 years, I've had the opportunity to run and lead a bunch of different assignments. And I have to thank Sheriff Furlong, the current sheriff in the back, for my successful career. I've had a very rewarding and successful career. I do have some stark differences from the current administration, and I'm glad you brought up the children in this community, because one of the programs that I'm going to bring to the table, if I'm fortunate enough to become Carson City's 28th sheriff, is a community youth unit within the sheriff's office. This unit is going to be designed and developed so that we can bring kids of our community of all ages into the office of sheriff on a year-round basis. It's not just going to be 6 or 7 programs throughout the course of a year where we do a function for the kids. The program I'm talking about is going to run year-round. Kids are coming into the 4 walls of the sheriff's office, and the reasons I believe that that's very important is because I feel there is a stark disconnect between the police officers and the kids in our community. So it's my belief if we bring them into the sheriff's office and we develop these programs and the kids get to go through some mock academies with police officers, we're going to build a mentorship and a relationship that we've never seen in Carson City in regards to kids and cops. Secondly, one thing I'm very passionate about, and I had the opportunity, was to be one of the original guys on the Carson City set team. This team was originally designed and with two deputies. I was one of them. It was designed to attack the methamphetamine problem in Carson City. I'm here to tell you folks, methamphetamine is still an issue. It's still a problem in Carson City. But heroin has surpassed methamphetamine, and I got a problem with that. Heroin, we're seeing the users between 15 years old and 26 years old. And the problem with heroin is, once an individual tries it once, they try to imitate that very first euphoric high that they received the first time that they used that heroin. And this is why we see overdoses in heroin. Heroin kills you right now. Methamphetamine kills you over time. Thirdly, the internal functions of the department, the employee morale, is dismal at best. And I'm here to tell you. And the reason I know that is because for the last over 6 years, I've been the association president. I manage the second largest bargaining unit within Carson City. I have experience in negotiating contracts on behalf of the employees. And if I'm fortunate enough to be elected sheriff, I'm taking that labor hat on, and now I'm putting my management hat on. I disagree with what the current sheriff said in reference to negotiating a contract. He does play a role in it. As sheriff, in regards to that question that was asked in the back, I will advocate for additional pay increases so that we can bring parity between firefighters and cops to the table. I've been, like I said, I've been involved in three contract negotiations, and I'm very passionate about it. The employees that currently right now, they're working anywhere between the average employee, 200 to 300 hours a year in overtime. They are flat wore out, folks. The employees are wore out. Currently right now, we have an NOP SWAT team. Why? Because the employees do not want to volunteer for any more work. They are overworked. In 2010, Carson City got hit, obviously, with a financial crisis. I begged the sheriff, I worked with the sheriff, I tried to get him not to lay off line-level employees, and he did. Another passion of mine, at the sheriff's office, we were way too top-heavy. Through attrition, I am not going to backfill certain positions. The sheriff, we had an unexpected retirement from a captain. He reallocated those funds to hire 2 additional deputies. Thank you, Sheriff, for that. I will also be hiring additional deputies, again, through attrition as soon as administrators retire. I'm very passionate about the fact that in the administration of the Sheriff's Office, we have a lot of people making 6-figure salaries, and I got a problem with that. The people that respond to your care and concern, whether it be the dispatcher that answers your 911 emergency, to the cop that responds to your house for the emergency, that's truly who provides a service to you, the citizens. Last but not least, I want to give the office of sheriff back to the people of Carson City. It doesn't belong to one man, not one man. It belongs to you, the people, and I will never forget that you are my boss. Thank you.
As the representative for the union, when you elected to the sheriff's office, how do you take off the hat that you are elected by the people of this city in your negotiation for contracts, pay contracts, and still have the loyalty to your police officers and your union? There's a dual purpose thing here that
there absolutely is. If I'm fortunate enough to earn your vote and become Carson City's 28th sheriff, I plan to be the coach of the team. And when I say coach of the team, the employees are the players. I'm going to be the coach. I'm going to advocate on their behalf to make sure they're fairly compensated within our jurisdiction so that we're not a training ground for employees. We don't have employees coming to Carson City, learning the job, and then going to Reno. I got a problem with that. There's a lot of money involved in training a police officer. Thousands and thousands of dollars involved in training a police officer. So every time we train them and they go someplace else, it's a dissatisfaction to the community. In regards to the labor aspect, I have extensive knowledge, training, and experience in negotiating, again, on behalf of labor. I understand, I have intimate knowledge of what management's rights are at the negotiating table. And as a sheriff, I have to protect those management rights. I can't give those management rights up. But I garner the majority of respect with my employees at the sheriff's office. And again, just being the coach of the team and keeping their morale up is going to be beneficial.
One more time, Daniel Gonzales, candidate for sheriff.
Since it's 5 minutes, I was going to come up here and tell you why am I here? Okay, what have I done in the department? You guys can go to my website and find that. There's 2 questions here that have been asked to the other 2 candidates that I do want to address. How am I going to change things at the sheriff's office? I'm going to change things by getting rid of half the administration. Why is that important? To put this in perspective, people, Douglas County has more officers than we do. They don't have as many administrators. I hold those people at fault for that. Just because you have the money to spend, you shouldn't have to spend it. We should have more people on the field. As far as the schools, I totally disagree with that. We have the money now. I have found over $600,000 in the budget by reducing administrators, reducing supervisors. We are very top heavy. The question was asked in September, why are we so top heavy? Nobody seems to give an answer. I will tell you why, because we're filling these positions that we don't. I am going to add 2 kids to the middle school by eliminating these administrators. I'm not going to go to the Board of Supervisors and ask for the money. We have the money, people. We do. The service that you guys get for $16 million is at par at best. There is so much more we can do. I'm going to add another detective to the division. Why? Because I was there. I was a detective for over 5 years. When you get that call at 2 in the morning on a child abuse, a sexual assault, you want to have the best person there. You don't want to have, there's 5 guys right now for this town. Why not add that? Why not have a specialty of elder exploitation? These are the types of things we need now. It's 2014. We are going backwards. We should not be going backwards as a community. We need to move forward. I run some programs. I run the crisis intervention team. I have the hostage negotiation team, the UDL team. I partner already with businesses. I have met with city leaders. There is so many things we can do. First-time offenders, working with the district attorney's office. Why don't we get them training instead of putting everybody on probation right at the first offense? Adding people to the SET team. There's a SET team officer here. Thank you for what you do, because I've been there. I've been that officer going from call to call to call, going after that drug dealer. But you start off at the bottom. You get that pipe first, and then he rats out his friends, and then they rat out that friend. Those guys work long hours, and they're dedicated. I've been there. We need to add another guy to traffic. We don't have a traffic division. As Don alluded, we don't have a SWAT team. Why is that? We should ask the sheriff why we don't have a SWAT team. We need to move forward, people. This is a town where we can't just be, it's always been the same thing. We need to move forward. That's why I'm here. I'm doing my part by running against my boss. Do your part and vote for me, because I will make those changes. I have the experience. Thank you.
You have a minute left for questions.
Would you relinquish your question if I asked it to one of the other candidates?
Sure.
Kenny, why don't we have a SWAT team?
We do. The SWAT team leadership is by Captain Melvin and Sergeant Mays. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The SWAT team leadership has been reestablished by Captain Melvin and Sergeant Mays. They are reforming the SWAT team. Why? Because of officer misbehavior. I'm intolerant to that. Does that answer your question?
No.
They are reforming the team as a result of officer misbehavior. I am intolerant to that. Yes?
Is the officer that misbehaved still employed, or is he gone?
They're still employed.
One officer is the problem?
One
officer is the problem for a team?
You've got me in a challenging spot here. It's not an appropriate place to talk about personnel matters, but I can tell you that several officers received some discipline, and the choice was made by me to abolish the past concept of a SWAT team and create a new concept. That process is in effect right now today.
How many officers do you have?
We have 93 sworn officers, including myself.
I think the room should know this as well, is we lost 2 or 3 officers to what the sheriff is talking about. It's not because of that, Sheriff, and you know that. It's because employees are wore out, 200 to 300 hours a year, working overtime. And this is ridiculous. Their livelihoods are on the line. It's not the, hey, Don, do you mind working overtime tonight? It's, Don, cancel that birthday dinner with your wife. And there's nothing I can do about it. And that's wrong, Sheriff.
But if I'm being robbed at gunpoint, I hope you drop dinner with your wife.
Absolutely. You bet I would drop dinner with my wife. But on that same token, when guys are working 200 to 300 hours a year in overtime, they're tired, they're fatigued, they're wore out. We need more cops in Carson City. By getting rid of some of the top, we're going to hire some more line-level employees. That's what's going to happen in Carson City.
I'm sorry, but if you feel like your calling in life is to protect the people and you want to be an officer, that's the last thing that I want to hear. I don't want to hear excuses about having dinner with your wife or whatever.
Ma'am, we're human beings just as well as you are.
I'm not saying you're not.
Our families are just as important to us as your family is to you.
You're using it as a venue here against the current sheriff.
Sheriff, could you tell us what the schedule is, what a starting officer gets, and how they progress, and what the retirement benefits are here in Carson?
I will tell you that Carson City did engage in a study, and Carson City did engage in a study over the past 6 months. They did contract it out. That study has shown that our officers are paid within a range of other agencies throughout this entire area.
What are the dollar amounts? What do they start at? What's your highest officer paid?
That will vary all the way through the department. I make $106,000 a year.
I might be able to answer your question.
Highest paid officer coming in overtime?
Highest paid officer including overtime?
Does anyone make more money than you?
Quite a few do. Quite a few do. Yes. I am not the highest paid officer in the department, no. Yes, in the back.
I wanted to get the focus back on Daniel because it is a stage right now. And what I appreciate about what you said, Daniel, is the relocation of existing funds. Some of the other politicians keep talking about the increase of 18%. I love that personally. Ain't gonna happen. I heard about trying to get funds for departments for their salaries. Well, I highly respect what they do to a really honorable level, but we pay good money for some mediocre services at times. But I've also had some great experiences with the Sheriff's Department too, so I also must give them some props there. But I'd rather hear politicians and people that are going to be elected talking about using existing funds, finding those monies because they are there. And if we all kind of take the time to look at some of the current funds and how they're spent, you'd be surprised what you'll find. So I appreciate that type of discussion where we're using existing funds to solve the issues. Then talk to us down the road how we can increase the funds, but take care of the people of Carson first too. That's important.
Yes, you got your hand up.
In your 24-hour operation, you have 93 sworn officers. How many patrol officers are on the street? How many patrol officers do you have?
37 patrol officers assigned. There are 37 patrol officers assigned to the division.
So just 1/3 of your operation is patrol?
That is an absolute fact, and thank you for bringing it up. Sheriff's office is part of a municipality. We not only fulfill the traditional police functions of law enforcement in this community, but we also fulfill the statutory sheriff's functions, which includes a jail operation.
I mean, as a follow-up to his question, his statement, of the 93 officers you have, 60 of them are administrators.
How many? No, the sheriff's office by statute, the sheriff by statute has the authority to appoint up to 6 positions. Currently, that appointment level is down 30% from what it's authorized. In 2010, we cut 10% out of our budget as a result of the economy. The first cuts all came from management and basically clerical type positions. All of those cuts came from there. It wasn't until 2010 when those cuts were the deepest, and yes, Dawn was in the room, when we had to go into the core of the law enforcement. At that point, we lost 12 positions.
Actually, I'd like to follow up on that. So, but what he's not telling you is he gets to set what he pays his administrators because he appoints them. I will tell you, excuse me, I'm coming down with a cold. It is not what a deputy's making. These are 6-figure salaries that could be with retirement and insurance benefits, 2 positions, almost $400,000. That's what's not being said. What's also not being said is prior to the budget cuts, where Don was fighting for these positions, was prior to that, a year before, he gave his administrators a raise, and we laid off deputies. This is a point. I want people to ask these tough questions because this is your city. Hold our feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
That's what you guys need to do. Enough is enough.
How many officers are on each shift? You have
5 on day shift is our minimum manning, 5 on swings. Sometimes they run 4 on graveyard.
Let me add to that though, contractually, and for the last 30 years in this community, contractually, our minimum man for any shift has been 4 cops. 4 cops. The sheriff's personal policy is 5. Thank you, Sheriff. We have 5. Carson City is broke up into 5 beats. The sheriff's personal policy is 5 cops. But I'm here to tell you guys, 2 good domestic batteries or 1 critical incident, there's no cops available. We're calling cops in to be able to, to help out if they answer their phones.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. I have a question. Yeah, I've been too close to you. I have a question about the mandatory overtime. Is that on an ongoing daily, weekly basis, and what is it used for?
We're always going to have overtime. I would be comfortable probably taking those funds and hiring 5 additional cops. That would leave $370,000 to manage the overtime budget. I'm good with that.
Here's the problem with that. When you're talking about police officers and 24-hour shifts, what you're talking about is it takes 7 officers to equal 1 in front of you, 24 hours a day. 7. Not 4, not 5, 7. In order to fund 1 position 24 hours a day at this sheriff's department, it takes 7 officers. Why the mandatory overtime? There's lots of reasons mandatory overtime. He got sick today, and he's on annual leave. What did John just say? The sheriff says there will be at least 5 on the street. What does that mean to you? That means on Christmas morning, when the kids are waking up, there will be at least 5 officers on the street. What they're not telling you is how we manage law enforcement here. We work on a 10-hour shift that provides an overlap, and we work additional operations such as special enforcement so that when the need is the greatest amount of officers is available to do the job. What they don't want to tell you is between you and I, we've been doing the job very effectively without raising taxes. If you want to play the whole magic game of putting the ball underneath the cup and start rolling it around and say, where's the money? We can do that all night long.
Sheriff, let me ask you.
Because we do that all night long, don't we?
Since this was kind of turned into a debate, Sheriff.
Yes, sir. Okay, go ahead. I just happened to be driving down Rip Street a month or 2 ago when 4 police officers in 4 cars went by to the murder up at the hospital. So that means that there was 1 officer left for the whole rest of the town?
Yes.
Yes.
That would be a normal response, yes. If you had
I'm just asking, I don't know.
If you had a shooting in a hospital, if you have a shooting anywhere in this town, I assure you, every officer is going to be there.
I will tell you, though, the sheriff mentioned that every bank robbery has been solved. There's a serial guy going around with a crowbar breaking into cash registers. Why hasn't that guy been caught? Why don't we talk about that? I responded to the last call of that. There was 2 of us going to that because there was a domestic and an injury accident. We need to do better with the money that we have. He wants to talk about it as a shell game. It should be open to the public. We need to get your community involvement. If the 10-hour shifts aren't working, why don't we get with the association and see what will work? We propose stuff. Don can attest to this. But it's one person's decision, and that's what it's coming down to. We are not an open department.
Well, no, hold on, Sheriff, it's my turn. Sheriff, it's my turn. I have tried to get the line item budget for the sheriff's office. Don't you think it's important to me as a candidate for sheriff, representing the people of Carson City, that I can study this budget, figure out where we can trim and reallocate funds to priority positions or priority programs? I can't find it, folks. Under my administration, you will see it. The line item budget, you will see where the sheriff's office spends money. There will never be a question.
Such as
not line item, not your expenditure, Sheriff.
I got to take some issue with you, Don, on your obsession with overtime. You're talking about 200-300 hours a year out of a 40-hour week. You're talking about 2,000 hours a year. I worked in industry for 38 years. 10% overtime, and that's what you're talking about, is nothing.
Well, my frustration on the overtime is simply because the employees. Remember, I represent the second largest employee group. They are flat out wore out.
Oh, come on.
That's what their job is. Don't tell me that they're wore out. Jesus Christ.
I'm retired school bus, area bus supervisor from Los Angeles. And I can tell you, I worked 300 hours of overtime in 9 months.
Okay. Let me ask you, do you think spending $815,000 of your money is appropriate to hire overtime? I don't think that it is.
I would take 6 weeks off with pay, regular pay, and that's how I got my overtime paid.
If it gets the job done, that's fine.
That's right, because during the school year, that's when you need the overtime.
So actually, we're
going to stop.
Whenever I have an emergency, what I'm getting is a tired police officer that's not going to respond as a person who called when you first came into shift. My problem is as important as someone else's problem.
So I appreciate the Republican Central Committee for having us. Clearly this is going, I encourage people, organizations to schedule a debate. Clearly there's a lot of issues that need to be discussed. I thank you guys all. These are great questions. It's getting late. They're giving me the signal. I thank the sheriff for sharing the stage with him. I thank Don, Maurice, and thank you guys all, because without you guys, we're going to be the same. Thank you.